What would you say fitness is for you?
If you like running, then you need to be fit to run. If you like doing, playing a particular sport, you need to be fit to play that sport, like you play football. So fitness is just preparing your body to live the kind of life that you want to live.
Break down nutrition for me. What is an optimal nutrition?
So nutrition is always context dependent. It is always dependent on the individual.
Is it?
Yes.
Why is that?
Uh, so that little discipline of just knowing how much you're eating actually creates freedom for you.
What are your thoughts on fasting?
See, a lot of the evidence around fasting, I feel like, is a bit skewed.
What do you think about the alcohol consumptions while improving your lifestyle fitness?
There is no circumstance under which alcohol is helping you. It's like very unlikely. People like, oh, red wine is good for you. No, right? Alcohol in general across the table is not going to help you with your health. It's bad for you.
What does Ishan do to live a healthier life?
What does Ishan do to live a healthier life? See,
Today, we are diving into a topic that touches every single one of us: health, fitness, and the small choices that can transform our lives. And who better to guide us than my friend and co founder of Knox Studios, Ishan Lal. Ishan is not just a fitness trainer, he's a passionate advocate for holistic wellness, blending cutting edge industry insights with practical advice that fits into the real life. In this episode, we break down the essentials of nutrition, what macronutrients your body actually needs, and how to make them work for you. We explore Knox Studio's mission to redefine fitness as a lifestyle, not just a routine. Should you track your weight and diet? What's the real deal with alcohol and its impact on your physical health? And let's not forget the growing debate between sauna and ice bath, and which one is better for recovery. We'll also dive into the incredible power of breathing, and breathing as a tool to improve your health, boost your mental clarity, and even find inner balance. Whether you're a fitness enthusiast, someone starting their wellness journey, or just curious about building better habits, this conversation is packed with insights to inspire and inform. So grab a coffee, sit back, and join us as we explore the fascinating world of health and wellness with Ishan Lal. Without further ado, let's get started. Before we dive into today's conversation, I just wanted to take a quick moment. We looked at our analytics and noticed that 93% of you who watch our videos regularly aren't subscribed yet. If you're enjoying our content and want us to keep going with more insightful conversation, we'd really appreciate if you could take just a second to subscribe. It might seem like a small action, but it goes a long way in helping us grow and bringing even more amazing content your way. Thanks for your support. It means the world to us. Now let's get back to the video.
Welcome Ishan on Dive for Publisher.
thank you. Thanks, Shivam.
How are you feeling?
Pretty, kind of enjoying. I was looking forward to being on here, actually. I like having conversations, and I'm hoping this is going to be one of those meaningful ones as well. Yeah.
Happy to have you here. I would want to start a conversation with your project that you work on right now. You work with Knox. It's like a gym, if I'm not wrong.
So we're not really a gym. We're let's say a fitness studio. So it's a bit different from a gym in that people are not just walking in and working out when they like. It's by appointment usually. So either you're coming for personal training, and then at our Gurgaon studio we have group classes as well. And yeah, we kind of manage all of this through an app. You have credits. You can come utilize them at our studio at your own convenience. But yeah, so not exactly a gym, fitness studio.
Why should someone join Knox and not any other gym or fitness studio? What is it USP is what my question is.
See, if you want high quality training, like you want the best trainers around, then we're for you, right? If you're someone who's not that interested in fitness or is just going to join a gym and then never go, then we're probably not the space for you, right? I mean, whether you're a beginner or you're someone advanced, we have the best coaches who are well trained, who know how to take you through the entire journey of fitness. And if that's what you're looking for, then I think we'd be the right spot for you.
What would you say fitness is for you, or Knox for that matter?
See, fitness ultimately comes down to like fit for what, right? Like, what is fitness? There's so many aspects to it, whether you're a runner or whether you're a lifter. Ultimately, you have to be fit to live the life you want to live, right? If you like running, then you need to be fit to run. If you like doing, playing a particular sport, you need to be fit to play that sport, like you play football, right? You need strong legs, you need strong calves, you need to have enough upper body strength to manage yourself on the pitch. So fitness is just preparing your body to live the kind of life that you want to live. Yeah.
Does it include longevity?
Longevity, see, ultimately everyone is, the fear of death is something that everyone deals with, right? And you want the idea that someday I'm going to get really old and someday I'm going to get sick and die. That's a very scary thought, right? And the idea of what longevity appeals to me is, we have our grandparents, right? I've seen my grandfather go through Alzheimer's. He reached a stage where he couldn't even recognize me, right? He had no idea. I was one of his favorite grandchildren. My sister will probably argue with me on that, but he could not remember me as a person, right? And so he reached a stage of physical incapability, and he was like that for, let's say, 3 4 5 years of his life. And what is the concept of longevity, right? I want to minimize that spell of my life where I am just completely incapable, where I can do nothing with myself, right? And I do that by preparing myself through when I'm younger, when I have the capability, right? So certain key aspects of longevity: how much muscle mass do you have now, right? Because as soon as you turn 40, every year after that you're going to be losing muscle mass if you're not training appropriately. So by the time I reach 60, if I haven't been training my muscles have wasted away, right? You'll see a lot of, you'll see a lot of uncles these days. They're big, but they're mostly fat and they don't have enough muscle to support their body, right? And then what's going to happen is I'm going to reach that stage of frailty, right? And if I haven't prepared my body for it, I'm going to become frail a lot faster than the average person. So when we talk about longevity, it's like, yes, I'm training now, obviously, to be fit for my life, but I'm also keeping longevity right there with it, because I never want to find myself in a situation where I'm like, I can't do things with my body, right? Because this is ultimately your vessel, right? This is what you have to maintain. This is what you have to keep to yourself so that you can function and you can do the things with your life that you want to be able to do. If you're fine sitting in a chair all day and being unable to move, then you don't have to worry about it, right?
Nice. Understood. So I would have an objective for this conversation. Let's. I would like to learn from you things, practices, and hacks to improve my lifestyle. Right. So I would like to start our conversation on this objective from for nutrition point of view. Break down nutrition for me. What is an optimal nutrition for any person, an athlete, or a normal person who's living a normal life?
See, what is the function of nutrition, right? Everything we do, our our body will regenerate itself every X amount of years, right? We replace our skin cells, we replace our bone, to a degree, our muscles, everything wastes away and our body rebuilds it. And the fuel to rebuild it is what we're putting in our body, right? So that is the essence of nutrition. So how you want to rebuild your body is going to be dependent to your individual lifestyle, right? Some people say, oh, carbohydrates are bad. Well, are they? Maybe you're a marathon runner, right? What do marathon runners do while they're running? They eat gels. Gels are pure glucose, sugar, right? Everyone says sugar is the enemy, but if I'm a marathon runner and I'm halfway through my race, that sugar is good for me, right? So nutrition is always context dependent. It is always dependent on the individual. It is dependent on what that individual is going through in their life, right? I'm a gym goer, right? I work out a lot. I break down a lot of muscle tissue at the gym, right? So my requirement for eating protein, which is the building blocks of muscle, is going to be higher than the other person, right? If I'm a sedentary individual, I'm not moving around that much, I don't need to eat as much protein as you are, right? So it's always dependent on the individual. What is the goal that you are trying to achieve with your life, right? Are you trying to fuel a particular performance goal you have? Are you trying to, build more muscle? Are you trying to lose weight? These things will always make a difference, and everyone's body is super different, right? So some people have allergies to food, right? So let's take the carnivore diet, for example, right? Would I recommend the carnivore diet for most people? I probably wouldn't, right? It's very high in saturated fats, and there's a lot of evidence around fat being unhealthy. But again, there's everything in nutrition is gray, so I'm not going to say anything as a black and white. But there are people who have a lot of allergies, right? So if I eat certain fruits and vegetables, it creates, some people suffer with psoriasis when they do that. So suddenly moving to a meat only diet works perfectly fine for them, right? So the general point I'm trying to make is it's always context dependent. But if as a normal individual you came to me and said, yeah, Ishan, I want to fix my nutrition, right? Give me some general principles. I'm just an average person. I work out sometimes. I like to be active. I want to improve my general health. What are few things I can do to improve my health, right? So basic principles first is quantity, right? Just think about how much you're eating, and quantity of food is measured in calories, not in amount, right? Don't look at a plate and try and do it, because that's very deceptive. So look at your calories. In general, for let's say longevity, they recommend you want to be in a slight calorie deficit, or you want to eat just about maintenance. So it means that you want to find out what is the amount of food you eat where you don't put on weight, right? And eat a little bit below that level. Now, an easy way to determine that is you weigh yourself every day, kind of standardize how you're eating first, right? That's, this is what I eat in a week. Weigh yourself. If your weight is staying around the same, right, then that means you're eating at your, let's say, the base level of your calories, right? This is when my calories are neutral. I'm not at a deficit. I'm not at a surplus.
What is an optimal calorie count for a day for a normal human?
It depends. If you're a 100 kg guy, it could be 3,000, 3,500 calories. If you're a 42 kg lady, it could be 1,200, 1,400 calories, right? Uh, how many calories you burn in the day is dependent on a lot of factors. Number one, and the biggest factor that results in calorie burn is just existing, right? So people think, oh, exercise is where I burn my calories. No, just being a living, breathing creature
Yeah.
is where you burn most of your calories, right? The second area where you burn,
Let's talk about me. 70
yeah,
kg man. How much calories does he need in a day?
a 70 kg man, I think somewhat for a guy about your size, you would, I'm guessing around 2,000, but again, a lot of factors, right?
Depends
How
on the
many,
movement as well.
yeah, how many hours of the day are you standing up? How many hours of the day are you sitting in a chair? How much muscle mass do you have in your body? You're 70 kgs, right? Are you primarily muscle? Are you primarily fat? Because muscle is always going to be more metabolically active, right? So if you're 70 kgs of pure muscle, the amount of calories you're going to be burning in a day is going to be more than someone who has more body fat on them, right? For that same amount of weight. So the variables are endless, right? So it always comes down to, with nutrition, always personal. It always has to be you as an individual. Where are you at, right? How much muscle do you hold? How many calories are you burning on a daily basis? And you do that by tracking yourself, right? Weight is one way to track it. I don't like people obsessing over their weight too much, but it's a good activity. It's a good thing to do once in a while, just to get an idea of, am I eating the right amount? Am I eating too much? Am I eating too little? Right? Because the weighing scale will kind of give you a little bit of an insight. But yeah, that's a good starting point. First is amount. Another thing, the second thing I usually look at when I'm giving nutrition advice is protein, right? So let's say I want, the general recommendation I give for protein for someone who is strength training is around 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight, and you'll get most of the muscle gain benefits. Like, you'll cover your deficit of how much muscle you need to rebuild if you're eating that much. Anything above and beyond that is diminishing returns. So yes, you may get a little bit more muscle gain if you're eating more protein than that, but it's not significant. And a little bit less than that is also not a problem, right? So let's say 1.4 to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight if you're strength training. If you're a sedentary person, you can eat a little bit less than that. It won't affect your progress that much more. And then we come into carbohydrates and fat, right? With carbohydrates and fat, I'm quite flexible, right? So it depends on what you feel better with. So a conversation we were having earlier is like, I feel very sluggish if I have lunch, and that's why I kind of avoid having lunch. But if I were to have a protein and fat rich meal at lunch and not have too many carbohydrates, that would reduce the rate, that would reduce how sluggish I feel after. But maybe you're someone who likes to do high intensity workouts, or who likes to do a lot of cardio based training, then maybe you want to have a few more carbohydrates, because that'll help you fuel your workout. So when I say nutrition wise, like, okay, broad general guidelines, which again, like I said, is always personal, but if you really want broad and general, first and foremost, look at your calories, establish your goal. If you want to gain weight, eat in a slight surplus. If you want to lose weight, eat in a slight deficit. And if you want to maintain, eat at your base level of calories. Second thing, look at your protein. Hit that target of protein. If you are an active person, hit that 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. And then with fat and carbs, whatever calories you have left. So let's say I'm on a 2,000 calorie diet and I need to eat, let's say 100 grams of protein a day. Then that means I've got it's 400 calories I've got from my protein. I can take the other 1,600 from carbs or fats any way I like, right? Whatever suits my lifestyle better. And that's generally how I recommend nutrition to
What
people.
does the body burn first? Carbs, Protein, and the third macro is what?
So protein, carbs, and fats are your,
Fats.
yeah.
So out of these three, what does the body burn first?
See, the most accessible source of energy is always going to be carbohydrates, right? But we have a limited amount of carbohydrates in our body, and our body does have other ways of utilizing energy, right? So a very interesting concept that's recently become popular is metabolic flexibility, right? And that means how efficiently can your body transition from utilizing fat as energy versus utilizing carbs as energy, right? Now when we're doing a slightly higher intensity form of exercise, right, whether you're sprinting or you're lifting heavy weights, beyond a certain time frame you will require carbohydrates as an energy source to fuel that, because it's a much faster source of energy, right? But let's say I now decide and I'm going to go out on a long slow run or even a walk, right, where my heart rate's not that high. It's challenging but not too challenging. In that space my body is going to shift not from using carbohydrates but will rather use fat as a source of energy, because it doesn't require energy as quickly but it requires a slow steady input of energy, right? So that is two ways in which our body is able to extract energy. It extracts from carbohydrates, and it extracts from fat. If I'm doing quick explosive movements, there's another part of this equation as well, but that's just, there's no point going getting into that, right? Which is ATP and the first level of energy that you produce. But if we stick to the basics, when you're doing something a little bit more intense, right, your body will want to utilize carbohydrates for energy. And if you are then doing something slow and steady long term, your body will then want to shift to utilizing fat for energy as well. So both are utilized.
Would you say, because I am someone who has never calculated my nutrition, is this the wrong way to live as well? Because now what I've understood is that it's very essential for you to see what you're putting in your body in terms of the quantity of each macros. Is it the wrong way of living life, Ishan?
See, there's no wrong way of living life, right? All I say is, see, anyone who is getting interested in looking after their own health through nutrition, which should be everyone, at some stage of your life, you should just take a minute just to review how you're eating. I don't expect you to do it for the rest of your life. Do it for, I would say, at least 2 to 3 weeks, where you write down what you eat, because most of us tend to eat quite consistently across the week, right? You know, Monday ko rajma chawal khaya, Tuesday ko we have curry chawal, something, whatever, right? Like we have हमारे घर के थोड़े बहुत routines होती हैं, and there are cycles, right? So if you can go through, let's say, 2, 3 of those cycles over 3 weeks, I just calculate what I'm eating. It'll be a good reality check for you, right? It just means, okay, fine, this is, I'm eating this much food, I'm eating this much protein, and this many carbs and fats. Now I have that data where I can manipulate it, right? I can then be like, okay, wow, I really was not eating enough protein, or holy shit, I'm eating more food than I realized, or holy shit, I'm not eating as much food as I thought I was, right? So just that going through that activity once for even a short period of time is immensely educational, and you will carry forward that education going forward. My mom is the best example of this, right? I say, okay, mom, you need to work on, you should cut down your weight a little bit. And she said, Ishan, I don't want to go to a dietitian. I don't want someone telling me what to do. I said, okay, fine, let's just do a self-reflection activity. I'm going to download an app for you, and you can use these apps, whether it's Healthify or, MyFitnessPal or something, right? I want you to, this will tell you how many calories you have to eat. Just track what you eat for 2 weeks. The other day, my mom, with the people over, and she was pouring herself a gin and tonic. She's like, Ishan, I saved up my, 70, 80 calories for the gin and tonic. I'm within my calorie limit for the day, but I want to enjoy a drink today, so I'm having. And I said, Mom, you know what? You're on it, right? You've understood how much you've eaten today. Have your gin and tonic. Enjoy it. So that little discipline of just knowing how much you're eating actually creates freedom for you, right? So going through that educational process, that you know what you're doing once, I think is immensely beneficial. Do I think you need to obsess over it for the rest of your life? No, man. Even I don't do that, right? I did it for a year of my life where I counted everything I ate, but now
It's
I
natural
eyeball
as
it.
well. It's natural for you to understand what is right for your body and what's not.
Yes, right. And I'll go through this activity periodically as well. So I'll go back, and maybe for a month I'll be like, I'm going to track my calories, right? And just see, like, oh, have I changed the way I eat a lot? How much protein am I eating? Am I not eating enough? And then make tweaks to that, and then I go back to being flexible again. Nobody wants to be on it all the time, right? I mean, other than some people I work with, they're like on it all the time. Like Joel is one of those guys, but most people are not, like, don't want to dedicate that much time and effort to it. So you need to find a way that you can integrate it easily into your life, right? Nutrition should be easy. It should not be difficult, because if it's difficult, then you can't do it consistently for a long period of time.
Let's transition this from nutrition to fasting. I feel fasting is an important part of anyone because it really detoxifies your body. What are your thoughts on fasting?
See, a lot of the evidence around fasting, I feel like, is a bit skewed. My I did intermittent fasting for at least 4 5 years, right? And what I learned is the valuable lessons you get from intermittent fasting is, one, that hunger is okay, right? Being hungry is perfectly fine, and you also start to realize that hunger is a state of mind, not a state of body, right? So I
Well
think
said.
that's the number one lesson that you take away from that, that just because I'm hungry doesn't mean I need food, right? I can go 6, 12, 18 hours without food and be perfectly fine, which is a great lesson, because I know people who have food anxiety. Yeah, lunchtime ho gaya, khana nahi khaya, right? Food becomes this activity that is decided by time, and
Yeah.
that's not how it should work. So that is one of the main benefits. Second, yes, you are not eating for a while, and that you could say that your body is giving your body time to detox, so you're not putting toxins into your body. I'm not too sure on the efficacy of that, because see, detoxification is a process that's constantly going on in our body. Liver, kidney is doing it all the time, right? To say now, okay, fine, a phase where I am not putting food in my body, am I detoxing? Sure. If you're otherwise always putting toxic things into your body, then yes, not eating for 18 hours will be detoxification. But if you're someone who's generally eating clean, all not really taking in substances that are, let's say, toxic to your body, then I don't really think that period creates any additional benefit for you. For me, it's a mental tool, in that, one, if you're eating fewer meals a day, it makes it easier to eat less, and second, it changes your relationship to food, which is what I mentioned earlier, is
Wow.
the hunger factor, right? You start to see hunger very differently than you did before you start fasting. Yeah.
And your mental capacity also increases as well because you can think clearly even when you're hungry. Because at the moment, the kind of lifestyle we people live is that we are revolving our life around the food we eat, what we want to have for lunch or for dinner. We're just constantly thinking about the next meal while we're eating this one. So that is an important part. We said change your relationship with food, and that's essential to live a healthier life. What does Ishan do to live a healthier life?
What does Ishan do to live a healthier life? See, there's multiple aspects to a healthy life. What is a healthy life, right? We have physical, which is what we eat and how we train. We have mental, which is what the work we do and how we feel. We have emotional, right, which is our relationships, the people around us, our relationship with ourselves, right? These are all essentially part of health, and I don't think one is more important than the other. So, for example, I start my morning as soon as I wake up. Let's say I wake up 6:30 or so. I meditate, right? That is my time for me. Can I sit with myself for half an hour, 40 minutes, and be at peace with myself? That's my mental check-in in the morning, right? Then my morning, my most productive hour, I like to have my little coffee or whatever after that. And then 7 to 9 o'clock is where anything I want to, that requires most of my brain power, is what I'll do that then. Uh, I like then training in the afternoon, which is the next kind of activity that I create for myself, because as a coach and with gyms, afternoon is the slowest time, right? So it's an easy plug to train then. Uh, and my training is two aspects of it. So one is, of course, strength training, which is I've been doing that 15 16 years, but recently I really started to enjoy running, so I've tried to incorporate a lot of running. And I'm very strategic with my running, in that a few days I'm doing what's called low intensity zone 2 cardio, which is my heart rate is not going above 145, and then one day I do an interval session where I'm just doing long intervals, let's say 4 to 5 minutes, where I'm trying to drive my heart rate up as high as I can. And they have different goals. One is for just general heart health. Second is for VO2 max. Get into that some other time, but those are my kind of training protocols that I'm following. And then along with that, I try and include flexibility, mobility on a regular basis as well. So that's my training. And other than that, I like to then have my dinner by 6:30. latest 7. I want to have dinner 3 hours before I go to bed, because that's really going to help me improve the quality of my sleep. And I'm usually asleep by 10:30. So 10:30 to 6:30, I have my full 8 hours of sleep. Other things, when I wake up, like to get as much sunlight as possible. I obviously have certain supplements that I take. Do I recommend supplements for everyone? No. I mean, I have supplements that I think I need. I can list them out: fish oil, creatine. I have ashwagandha, but I have that for specific reasons that I found in a blood test I took, right? I'm not just going to go and say, oh, everyone should go have these things. Uh, so I have my supplement stack that I have certain supplements for the morning, certain supplements for the evening. And yeah, then ideally, I like to spend a little bit of time with my family or friends, my dogs every day. I feel like that's an important thing that a lot of people don't account for as a part of overall health, because there's so much evidence around how relationships are one of the biggest part of health. Like the single predictor like of longevity, the single most important marker of
It's community
longevity,
living.
right, is the number of closely formulated relationships you have with people. So people, you worried about your health, make sure your relationships are tight, because it's just as important, because loneliness
Yeah.
is a silent killer. So taking that time out, spending time with family, that's one of the other things I do for health as well.
Lovely. You rightly said that it's the people you love, you spend time with, because that's what keeps you living healthier life. Why I say that is because we were speaking about blue zones earlier. There are 5 blue zones across the world, and the common factor of these blue zones is not the what kind of exercise they do or the food that they eat, but the common factor is that they come together as a community and live a more, you know, uh, healthier life together.
Yeah. So healthier, right? What is ultimately, that leads people to early death, right? It's stress, it's anxiety. What is stress? I mean, okay, even exercise is a form of stress, but that is acute stress. So acute stress is good, because if I stress my body and then I give it time to recover, it gets stronger. But if I'm perpetually stressed, right, which is what, general anxiety or any of these disorders are, where you're constantly in a hyper, like constantly in fight or flight, that is what then starts to create all the negative consequences in your body. And spending time with family, right, just all the evidence around it, the kind of hormone that's going to release in your body, having that sense of belonging, I feel like is such a crucial part of mental health. And that often gets missed. So that's why you're right. Blue zones, we talked about whatever the Mediterranean diet or whatever kind of diet they eat. But what was one of the biggest parts of what they do was they spend time with each other. They spend time with community, whether it's family, like community is the general term you're looking for, right? Having a sense of belonging, but spending time with people in a meaningful way, that's a huge part of health that often gets missed.
You spoke about stress as well. What are different ways that you stress your acute stress we're talking about here? Do you give your body and your mind?
Acute stress, exercise is one, right? Another, I mean, you putting yourself through work of any kind that requires you to, whatever, tune into a certain part of yourself which requires attention, all of that, right? That is all stress.
I've been noticing that you do a lot of ice baths recently.
Yes.
Ishan.
Yeah.
Talk
So,
about ice baths to us.
okay, so for me, ice baths, very, very specific purpose, right? People often go into, oh, it's going to help me burn fat, all of those things. Very clear benefits of an ice bath. Again, number one, mental in that you're doing something you really don't want to do and you're doing it consistently, and that act of putting yourself through something that you don't want to do, right, builds mental resilience. And this is scientifically known, right? Like you can see that part of the brain grow when you consistently do something you really don't want to do. So one is mental. The second part of it is recovery, right? So I utilize an ice bath. I don't do it every day. I do it once a week, and I do it strategically, because on Saturday I do a long run. So whether that's 15K or so, and then Sunday I play football, and I don't want to be trash at football the next day, so I have the ice bath, and that helps me recover for the next day of football. So it'll definitely help with recovery. Uh, Another thing is the evidence around ice baths post strength training sessions. So generally, it's recommended that you don't do an ice bath post strength training, because it can blunt the effectiveness or the response, the strength gain response that you would get from that workout.
Is it?
Yes.
Why is that?
The mechanism, I mean, maybe I don't know, maybe it's out there, but that the outcome was that that it can blunt the strength training response. Maybe as a part of the muscle gain process, when you train, you break down muscle tissue, it creates inflammation. The ice
Numbs it or
the
something.
ice bath will reduce inflammation, right? That's part of how it helps you heal. And maybe the removal of that inflammatory process is then removing the hypertrophy or muscle gain response that you would get from it. Again, this is pure speculation. I'm not 100% sure on this, but yeah, for me, that's why the main benefit of ice bath is that recovery. So I do it after my run, not post workout. And if I'm going to do it post a strength training workout, I would wait at least 4 hours
Yeah.
before I did.
Like you said, there aren't many studies about the benefits of ice bath physically, but the biggest benefit is the mental resilience that you build. Recently, I've been reading a lot about the advantage of sauna versus ice bath, and more people speak about sauna, which is more beneficial. What are your thoughts on that?
So sauna, the evidence is a little bit more robust. Unfortunately, I don't have easy access to a sauna, so I haven't been able to utilize it regularly. But sauna, when you spend time in that extreme heat, it activates something called heat shock proteins, and then that has all kinds of longevity benefits associated with it. There are a bunch of studies around how regular use of sauna can improve a number of markers of longevity. So yes, sauna, in terms of evidence, there is a lot of evidence that it can, well, there is decent evidence to suggest that it will benefit longevity and overall health. People often use steam and sauna interchangeably. They're not really the same thing, and this is
Is
because,
it?
yeah, because a steam uh, the heat is very surface level, right? Because the heat is in the form of water vapor, it heats your skin before your core body temperature is able to get high enough. That's my experience, right? Maybe someone can sit in a steam long enough that their core body temperature is also rising. But in a sauna, the heat is more gradual, right? Your core body temperature rises up. So you find in a steam you're sweating straight away, right? Because it's the water vapor touching you. But in a sauna, you sit for a while, you dry out first, and then suddenly you really start sweating. So a sauna really allows you to get enough to high enough temperatures in your body where you'll see the benefit of saunas from, the activation of heat shock protein or whatever mitochondrial health benefits that you're going to get from it. A steam, not so much. And there are other variations of it as well, right? Which is like the infrared sauna. And infrared basically, the infrared part of the sauna doesn't really generate heat. That's just a wavelength of light. And so you have infrared and near infrared light, and both of them pierce. So basically, the point of infrared light is that it's a wavelength of light that's able to pass through your skin. Now, we know that sunlight affects our body in a lot of ways, right? So, all that the infrared light does is it gets past the outer layers of your skin and it's able to stimulate the mitochondria deeper within your body. Now, near infrared light will, I can't remember the exact wavelengths, but one goes, let's say, just about skin level and can help with skin regeneration. And then the other one is able to go all the way into your muscles and promote
Straight
regeneration as
away.
well. Yeah. So that becomes the infrared part of it. But the sauna benefits, I don't think just infrared light is great by itself, but don't go to just an infrared sauna if there's no heat in it, right? The heat is a good, important aspect of it as well.
Right. One topic I must ask you about is that people really want to know, I'm sure, is about the alcohol consumption. What is it? I'm someone who don't drink at all. I stopped drinking 2 years ago, and it's been followed now. But what? And I have my reasons for it. Why? What do you think about the alcohol consumptions while improving your lifestyle fitness?
There is no circumstance under which alcohol is helping you. It's like very unlikely. You people like, oh, red wine is good for you. No, right? Alcohol in general across the table is not going to help you with your health. It's bad for you. Having said that, right, I myself drink occasionally, right? Having a beer with my dad, my brother, or a few of my friends is an activity I enjoy doing. And as an activity that brings me together with people I love, I allow it into my life. Am I someone who's going to go out consistently on a weekend and get sloshed? That's not it, right? So I don't want to tell anyone what to do with their life, right? Everyone's an adult. Know that alcohol is not benefiting you, and even moderate consumption of alcohol is going to have some negative health consequences in your life. But if it's something that you really enjoy and it adds value to your life, whether it's a shared glass of beer with your brother when you're hanging out after a long time, right? Those are moments of value in your life. And if, I mean, for some people they're not, right? I mean, some people like having chai together, right? But if those are moments of value in your life, have that once in a while, but be smart about it, and don't and know that it is a negative consequence in your body, right? And manage that appropriately.
There are a lot of different directions we can take this conversation to, but since we are uh, low of time, I'm going to end our conversation with one important question, which I feel everyone should take away from this conversation as well. It is the aspect of breathing in fitness, breathing exercises, breathing while doing some exercises. What are your take on that, Ishan?
See, breath, absolutely vital, right? And something that's very, very recently transformed my training is nasal breathing for like while I'm doing my cardio and while I'm doing a lot of exercises. Yes, when you're strength training, there are ways to breathe, right? And that depends on the exercise you're doing. There's one general way is when you're doing, like a heavy lift of any kind, you want to create stability through your trunk, so you breathe in a way to create stability. But what a lot of people miss generally about breathing is a lot of us have flawed breathing patterns generally, right? And it's evident. I mean, you'll see people whose jaw lines have almost retracted, and a lot of time that's because of their breathing pattern, right? uh, a few basic things that you should understand about breathing. You want to breathe as light and as slow as you can, right? And if people can try this at home as well, try and breathe just through your mouth and then try and breathe through your nose, right? You'll see yourself, the rate at which you're able to breathe through your nose is less, right? And people are like, oh, but then why should I breathe less? I'm getting less oxygen. No, right? There is two gases that are involved in breathing. There's carbon dioxide and then there's oxygen, right? When we breathe in, oxygen comes in, it's exchanged with carbon dioxide, and then you breathe out that carbon dioxide, right? But that carbon dioxide in your system is important. That exchange is important. And if we breathe too much, right, through our mouth, then we're expelling too much carbon dioxide. And when you expel too much carbon dioxide, you are unable to use the oxygen that you're taking in efficiently, right? So most of this information I'm getting from a book called Oxygen Advantage. It's a great book. People should check it out. But the principle is that in order to breathe better, you want to slow down the rate of breathing. In order to slow down the rate of breathing, you want to primarily breathe through your nose, because your nose automatically first requires you to breathe slowly, and it also filters the air that you're breathing, through all the hairs and stuff that we have in our nose. So it does that automatically. So you slow down your rate of breathing, and people will find that this is not only going to improve your overall cardiovascular capacity, but you'll also find that your mood is suddenly calmer, because breath and how you feel mood wise is super important. Our fastest connection to our heart is through our breath. So a small example of this is when I inhale, right? That time I'm entering what is called a sympathetic a sympathetic state, right? My heart rate increases slightly, and my body's that sympathetic state is closer to fight or flight. When I exhale, right, I enter a parasympathetic state, right, which is your rest and digest state. So if I want to be more calm, right, in life, then in general I want to have my exhales longer than my inhales. And when I breathe slowly, that does happen automatically. However, sometimes you might be feeling really sluggish and you want to amp yourself up. That time you might want to increase the rate of your inhales versus that of your exhales. But breath, often, you're right, is such an important part because it controls how you feel, it controls your heart rate, and it is the very essence of our being, right? That's what drives energy through our body. So I hope these general tips will help people kind of think about breathing.
Is there any particular exercise that you do for breathing?
Me, no. I just so something that I started doing, like I said, was nasal breathing only cardio. So where I'm working, so let's say I get on a treadmill and I'll run at a pace where I can only sustain nasal breathing.
Yeah.
And weirdly enough, for a lot of people, this is, I mean, not weirdly, but it's just become the norm that's very, very difficult. But if you look at like elite athletes and stuff, you'll sometimes notice their mouths are closed when they're running.
Of course.
Right? You can go check it out. So building up your capacity to be able to perform high intensity activities while nasal breathing, I think that's a great one. In terms of breathing exercise, a lot. Yoga has so many practices. The Oxygen Advantage, the book itself has a lot of interesting strategies that they use. But I would just start to recommend to people an easy way just to start improving the quality of your breathing. One is this nasal breathing only cardio, and second, something that I did was mouth taping at night. So I tape my mouth sleep at night when I sleep so that I only breathe through my nose. You combine both of those together, you'll be able to fix or like shift your breathing pattern towards nasal breathing quite efficiently. It does take time, like it'll take 2-3 months where it'll feel quite uncomfortable, and you can ease into it, right? Like try it for a short while, don't make yourself too uncomfortable, ease into it, but it's a good sort of starting place to start to shift your practice towards nasal breathing in general.
Another reason why you should breathe from your nose and not your mouth is because it really warms the breath that you take in. It helps your lungs to take it in easily as well. Having said that, I would like to suggest a breathing exercise to you.
Yeah.
I'm sure you would heard of it. It's called Wim Hof method.
Yeah.
It's a great way to master your breath and your mind at the same time, and gives you the mental resilience. I'm sure you know about it. This is for the audience as well. Wim Hof is a type of breathing that really increases the oxygen levels in your body and helps you to be more calm in difficult situations as well.
Yeah. So Wim Hof actually comes on the opposite end of the spectrum for oxygen advantage, in that it uses hyperventilation. So what Wim Hof actually does, and I did Wim Hof for a long period of time, and I did it because after that my mind feels really calm. But how you are able to achieve that long breath hold, right? So when you do Wim Hof, people are suddenly able to hold their breath for 2 minutes, right? You do the hyperventilation, the cyclic hyperventilation, then you hold your breath for 2 minutes. It's again, you've increased your carbon dioxide tolerance. So the urge to breathe doesn't come because of lack of oxygen. It comes because of a buildup of carbon dioxide.
True.
And that hyperventilation pattern kind of hacks that carbon dioxide cycle, and that's why you're able to hold your breath for so long post Wim Hof. So I really love it because after you do the Wim Hof method, your mind feels really calm and relaxed, and I almost feel like a ringing calmness after I do it. So I do love it, but I've reached a stage where I did it for so long that now I just like sitting in a 40-minute meditation, because the process takes around 10 minutes to do. So that's why I don't do it anymore. But I do think it's a fun and great exercise to do for breathing as well.
Lovely, Ishan. What a insightful conversation we've had here. Covered a lot of topics, but I'm sure we need another round to go deeper in a lot of conversations and topics that we covered today. Thank you so much for being a part of this. It's been insightful for me, and I'm sure it's been for the audience as well. And thank you.
Yeah, thanks, man. Really enjoyed the conversation. Looking forward to it.
We at TOAP are working really hard to take this podcast to the next level. Our guests are going to get even better, our production quality is going to get even better, and hopefully, I'm going to get even better too. Most importantly, we are committed to being consistent and continue to do what we love the most. Until then, keep reimagining yourself and know that the power of change lies within you. Jai Hind.